In today's world, a lot of people quietly wonder, especially in a culture that equates success with blessings, that can someone have money and be right with God? Now, some as a result of that will feel, guilty for wanting financial stability, and others will feel judged for, pursuing success. Now, it's important to realize that Jesus answered this question directly, and his answer is more clear and serious than most people may realize. Now, it's important to realize that the issue has nothing to do with wealth itself, but it mostly has to do with, what does wealth do to the human heart especially when it goes unchecked. Now, money doesn't just provide comfort, but it provides a sense of trust, identity, and security. Now, scripture warns us that something that replaces God as our source quietly becomes our master. Now, many biblical theologians may teach that wealth is proof of God's favor, while others may say that it is sinful to have material possessions. But both individuals miss the point because Jesus never reduced the issue to income, but mostly to allegiance. When you look at Matthew 19, verse 23 to 24, it says how he no, truly I tell you that it is hard for someone who is rich to enter the kingdom of heaven. In Luke 12, verse 15, it also talks about watch out, be on guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions. Now, when you look at these two scriptures that I read, Jesus in himself wasn't condemning success, but he was warning about attachment, especially to the things of this world. Wealth becomes dangerous when it replaces the dependency on God, and it dulls urgence for eternity, and it creates this false illusion that, as people, we must be self sufficient. And that's why this warning may feel uncomfortable with a lot of people, but it exposes where our trust really sits. Now, this is where the listener, needs to feel convicted and not attacked. Now, notice this that Jesus didn't say it was impossible for the rich to enter heaven. He said it was hard. Why? Because wealth makes, surrendering more harder and difficult. And it gives us alternatives to faith, prayer, and obedience. Also, in Matthew 19, verse 26, it says, with man, this is impossible. With God, all things are possible. Now, scripture gives us a clarity on how to handle wealth without letting it handle us. Number one is to hold money loosely and not emotionally, not identity-wise. If money becomes your identity in life, it tells you everything you need to know. That's number one. Number two, we must practice generosity intentionally. It breaks, money's grips. Also, we must regularly examine what who our trust is in. Is it in God or in the things of this world? So, what are you depending on for peace? Now, if wealth becomes your security in life, what that implicates is that it will eventually hollow you out. Because when God remains your source, money becomes a tool, not a trap. Now, scripture doesn't warn us to restrict joy, it instructs us to protect our soul. Now, to close you guys and leave you with, final thoughts, rich people don't miss heaven because they have money. They miss it when money has them. Now, Jesus' warning wasn't to shame anybody, but it wasn't meant to awaken. Sorry, Jesus' warning wasn't meant to shame, but it was meant to awaken. So, the final question you must ask yourself is, who do I trust?